good leaders help you better at your job, but great leaders help you better at life, right? Chris Hogan says that.
1000%.
And I love that.
Hey guys, it's Becky and Billy. Hey, welcome to our weekly tidbits where we give you tiny little gems each week to help you in your leadership journey.
We have a passion to help leaders get unstuck. So if you're serious about your leadership journey, tune in weekly.
We are so glad that you guys are here. We have got some requests. So in the next few sessions, what are we going to talk about, Billy?
We're going to talk about the best career advice that you've ever received.
Yes, so we've got some good ideas. Today, we're going to start out with that series that we have no idea how many that we're going to have in this series. We'll kind of decide that as we go along, but we've gotten some good career advice and probably some not so good.
Exactly.
We'll share the good stuff with you guys.
Yes, we won't give you the bad stuff.
No, definitely not. Although we might talk a little bit about the bad stuff. I do think like there's so much good stuff from like, how do you manage your career? And what I'll start out with saying, and Billy, I'd be interested to hear like, what are your thoughts on this? There's no wrong or right. There's no do this and then do that, and then you have to do this and you have to do that. What I love about like even, working as a coach, constantly working with people who are, even though like they've been in the same role, like the progression or the next steps is just not always the same. Like sometimes it could be something different where there's a skill that you need. Billy and I have been both in HR, right? Mm-hmm. Both of us very similar. However, we took totally different paths. And really, what I think that for me is like I leaned into, and I think you did the same, is like, what is it that's really speaking to me more? So I think, and one of the things we'll talk about in these videos is like leaning into your strengths. I think that's a really important one. I can't wait for that one. But what are we going to talk about today, Billy?
Yeah, so today I think I got this advice as a very young green leader, and I think it helped me so much in my career. And we've talked about this before in a tidbit, but was to delegate, right? Mm-hmm. So I think when we're new leaders, we want to prove ourselves. And so we try to take it all on. We try to do all the things. And so we know that what that can do. First of all, to us, that can cause burnout, overwhelm, exhaustion. And then to our team too, that shows that maybe we don't have that level of trust in them to say, hey, take this task on. And Definitely. You're not empowering your team, right? So you're holding them back really if you're not sharing those things with them. And I was sharing with Becky before we actually got on the call that, I worked for a company before and we had this seasoned employee. She'd been there for years, but she would never teach anybody how to do anything, and so when she left, the company was put in a really bad situation because nobody knew really what she did. We weren't, when she stepped away and she kind of left quickly. And so when she left, we were all like, we don't know what she does because she would never teach anyone. So I think, as if you're a business leader too, you got to think about it in that aspect. If you're the business leader, if you have an accident tomorrow, who's going to be able to pick up those pieces for you? So I think, that was something that, like I told Becky, like I learned very quickly how important that is, not just for myself, but for my team too.
Yeah. And it's funny, Billy, because that actually was reminding me of like working with several clients on not even delegation, but delegation was the answer. Mm-hmm. And what we were talking about is like, like when you feel like that you're the only one that's responsible for a task and how almost, I don't know, I want to say unfair that is. Not just for you because you're taking it on, but I think it's unfair for your team as well because it's a skill that they probably could use or pick up on that would benefit everybody. Mm-hmm. You'll hear me talk about this often. Like I am constantly looking for what's in it for me. Those of you guys that remember back in the day, like Withams, right? What's in it for me? But not just what's in it for me, just for the power of what's in it for me. I also look into what's in it for me, but what's in it for you and what's in it for like the good of like the organization. So like that win-win-win. And I really do feel like delegation is huge on that, right? It gives you a sense of like clarity in your mind to not worry about, I have to be the only one that does this. It gives you like the flexibility to be able to say, if I need to step away for whatever the reason is, vacation,
Yeah,
because I'm
absolutely.
overwhelmed, a mental health day, right? Like whatever the reason is, or you totally just walk away from organization. Like you are not the only one that, knows all the skills that you need to do there. So I do think that's such an important task is, empowering others and delegating, whatever the reason for it. It's just really, really important.
Absolutely. I think back to Becky, Richie, and I were all part of a leadership training program at another
Yeah.
company that we worked with. And I think the supervisors did a really good job of delegating to us, but it was so
Yeah.
beneficial because we would go from department to department and learn all this cross training. And I think about that, what we learned in that position and how it's carried me through my professional career, because people were
Absolutely.
willing to delegate and give us and trust us with, how to lead a team, managing portfolios, things of that nature. But I learned so much that when I walked away from that job, I had so many skills that I could take to my new position. And I was a valuable asset to my new company because of
Right.
that training. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that, good leaders help you better at your job, but great leaders help you better at life, right? Chris Hogan says that. And I
1000%.
love
I say that
that.
to people all the time.
Yeah, and it is so true. We
It
should
is.
want to empower our people and make them better.
Mm-hmm.
Because jobs come and go, but if you're helping
True.
people get better at life, then wow, I mean, what an impact you're going to make on that person.
I totally agree, 1000%. And as a leader, like what, I feel like like that sense of accomplishment, right?
Hmm.
Sure, looking back, and I know that you can too, Billy, think about like leaders over time who have impacted you.
Oh yeah.
Have those leaders just help you gain a new skill? Sure, they helped you to gain a new skill, but they've also, like you said, there's things that I look back from leaders who have just been so awesome and pivotal in my pivotal, you know the word I'm trying to say.
I do.
Like they really have made an impact on my life. They're
Hmm.
not so much just, job skills. They are
Right.
absolutely life skills that we've learned. And delegation is one of them. Like, um, I think, and we talked about this before. We actually have a handout that we'll give to you guys for free, and Billy will tell you a little bit more about that and
Mhm.
how to get to it. But it's all about what do you delegate, and then even above and beyond that is, so how do you delegate it? So Billy, let's talk
Mhm.
a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we will put this on our landing page for you guys, a landing page to get to it. So, but yeah, I mean, think about what to delegate and how to do that. So, it's very simple, and I'm just going to give you a couple key points. But making a list of anything that you do and giving as much detail as possible. That's one way, right? So
Mhm.
think about everything that you do in a day, and then write down how much time you spend on each task. And then you just prioritize, right? Prioritize that and say, okay, is that something that I feel comfortable delegating to someone? And you have to trust your people, right? And
Mhm.
that is key. Explain it to them, but also be flexible and also be open to say, okay, come back to me if you have questions. I think a lot of times when I was a new leader, I would take on a task and I'd be like, I don't know if I truly understood that. So, having the ability to go back and say, hey, can you just kind of give me a little bit more clarity on this? So, just as a leader, being open to doing that. And
Yeah.
then how to delegate it, just get constant communication, right? You can never over communicate with your folks. And I think about this list that we'll share again, but I think about it at my house, right? I will come home sometimes mad because the dishes are in the sink, and I'm like, I do everything around here, and my family laughs because I say that a lot sometimes, and I really don't do everything. But it's having those conversations with them saying, look, we need to be able to do this stuff together and carry the load.
Hmm.
And I want to teach my kids that
Absolutely.
these skills, because I'll be honest, and Becky, you probably know this, but my mom did everything for me. So when I went to college, I truly struggled because I didn't know how to wash clothes. I didn't know how to do anything. So, I want us to not only in our daily jobs, but also in our home life too. We need to be delegating in every aspect of life because we want to grow pathfinders, right? And not just followers. So
Yeah.
I think it's important in every aspect of life.
I totally agree. It's funny though, Billy, when you were talking about like the delegation, like, you were talking about, well, do you trust them and do they understand? One way to really ask that, to understand that is like, do they understand? We have to be willing to tell them what does done look like, whether that's with our kids or with our employees, right? Like, what is it that you're expecting from it? And I know we've talked about this before, but why you need that and what you're going to do with whatever it is that they're going to provide back to you is a critical point in that. And then you talked a little bit about trust, and gosh, if my people hear me say this once, they hear me say it all the time. It's like, we got to turn that mirror on ourselves. And if somebody doesn't understand, or they give us something than what we expect, or there's a lack of trust there, don't look at your people and be like, why is this misunderstanding here? Look at yourself and say, what can I do better to make this communication or, this partnership better? I don't know. I just can't preach that enough. I just feel like that's really critical, because the reality is we can't change the way that people are, receiving what we're giving them. What we can only change is how we deliver it. So I think from a delegation perspective, asking ourselves and being very clear on what does done look like. And, if we provide something and we're like, okay, I don't know if I can trust them to get this done. Well, you got more work to do, right? Because then you need to make sure that you're building enough trust that your people will do whatever it is that you ask because they trust you enough, right?
Absolutely.
So I do think that's a really important one. And yeah, I think this is not just for, work, but like Billy said, definitely when you start seeing, that whether it's your employees or, our family, once we start getting on the same page and then start doing as much as we can to help the relationship, I think that's really important.
Absolutely. I love the what is done look like. That's perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't help it, right?
Yeah.
Because if we don't understand what done looks like or why we need it, then how do we expect what they're going to deliver back to us to be able to solve the problem that we have?
Yeah, exactly. And when we're young and dumb, like I say sometimes, like, if we don't explain what done looks like, then when we give that task to somebody and they bring it back to us and it's not exactly like we would have done it, then, I back in the day would have probably said, well, I should have just done it myself, right? But I didn't clearly explain what I was exactly looking for. So I think that's perfect. And I think that's a great way to work at that conversation in, to just say, look, this is the expectation and this is the end result. This is what I want it to look like. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing, and I don't know that we were planning on going here, Billy, but I just can't help myself. Before we get to the how of delegation, like, I wonder, like, what has been your experience like when someone has delegated something to you? Like, would you have any advice there of like, how do you handle that, or how did you handle that, or I don't know, how do you handle that now?
So I will say in the beginning, I probably didn't ask enough questions. Because I didn't want to appear as though I was not intelligent, or, I was always so afraid to ask questions in the beginning. So what would I do? As soon as I would walk out of that office, I would run to my buddy or, run to my peers and say, how do I do this?
What is this?
Yeah. So I think, being vulnerable, I've learned so much, is just to say, look, I really don't understand this. Can you explain it to me a little bit more or differently? But I think that was key for me in the beginning, was that I didn't want to appear as though I wasn't intelligent enough or I didn't get it. So I would just nod my head and not ask questions. But I have grown in my career, and I know now, if I don't get something, I ask, and I'm not afraid to ask. So I don't understand this. Can you explain it to me? So I think that was key for me as a young leader.
Yeah. So if somebody asks you to do something and you don't understand, just get curious about it. Ask more
Yeah.
questions. And the way
Mhm.
I see that is really we're kind of coaching upward, if you will, right? This
Mhm.
is what I need from you, Mr. Leader or Mrs. Leader. And this is, these are some of the things that I know I need to do. And, we don't have to do it from a vindictive way. I
No.
just want to make sure that I'm serving you the very best possible. And if I don't understand what you're asking of me, you are not going to get what you're expecting. So, like,
Exactly.
let's help each other out here so that it is exactly I'm using my time wisely to be able to provide for you what you need. I'll say another one for me, Billy, has been like when somebody delegates something to me that I just know I can't do. I think in
Mhm.
the past I'd be like, sure, I could do that. Sure, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. And I think one of the things that I think are really important is to have those boundaries and to be able to say
Mhm.
no, or to say, what about this?
Mhm.
Maybe I can't do it, right? Like, take the example when you and I were together. Like, if I knew it was something that I couldn't do, to then offer a possible other solution.
Absolutely.
Hey, like, I can't do this fully, but hey, I wonder if there's a way that you and I can partner with this,
Mhm.
and to do it a little bit differently. And this is kind of what my vision looks like, is and to offer up another solution, or maybe come to compromise, if you will.
Mhm.
So from a delegation perspective, there's a couple of, like, if you are someone who gets delegated too often, there's
Mhm.
some things that you can absolutely use too.
Yeah, I think that's so good, and I think boundaries are key.
Hmm.
I think we don't say no enough when we should, but I do
Yeah,
like that come back with another solution, right? So don't just say, "No, I'm not
absolutely.
gonna do that," or "No, I can't do
Right.
that," but offer a solution. Yeah, I think that's key. That's great.
Yeah. Because I think sometimes the people who delegate to us, they really don't know what's truly on our plate, right?
Sure.
Because many of us were taking, I don't want to say orders, but like we're working on numerous different projects that
Mhm.
someone who might be delegating something to you doesn't have like a true understanding of what else you're working on. So I think we
Exactly.
kind of are responsible to educate them of, like I said, like, let's put a little bit more boundaries on it to be able to say, like, I can do this but I can't do that, or even a time frame, right? Like, I know I
Mhm.
could commit an hour to this and that's it. So what can we do to get you closer to that by then? So I think that's just some ideas that I think is important with delegation too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
For sure, for sure. So is there anything else, Billy, that you can think about, like delegation? I know I kind of stopped midway through you kind of talking through the handout, so I didn't know if there's
No, no,
anything
no.
else on there. Did we
No,
cover it?
I think that we covered the most of it, actually, but I think we'll add it to the show notes so you can grab that
For
handout.
sure.
It is helpful. I think, just from a leadership perspective, I will say just don't be afraid to delegate. If you're new in your leadership journey, I know that you want to do all the things, you're trying to prove yourself, but don't be afraid to hand some things off, because you don't want to get burnt out, you don't want to feel
Yeah.
overwhelmed, and you want to get your team's buy-in, and you're not going to gain your team's buy-in as quickly as if you just trust them with tasks. So empower them, and let them take some of that burden off of you. So, but yeah, and we'll attach the link to the handout too. So, because it is
Absolutely.
important, I think it is key, especially if you're new or you're stuck in your leadership journey. I know
Yeah.
we've
The
both
one
been there.
Absolutely, we have more than once, more than once.
Hmm.
I'll say one of the things that that I hear all the time, and I think that even more so now, I really am like buying into this. I will say is under promise and over deliver, right?
Hmm.
Like, and I think that that's really about knowing your limitations.
Hmm.
More often than not, I think that we assume we have more time, or that we can get done with more in less time, and we can't, right? Like,
Right.
we're just not very good at estimating what time that it takes. And I would just say, like, another, like, ask for help if you need it, right?
Mm,
Like if you need to
yes.
delegate, like be willing and be courageous enough to ask for help if you're just like, wow, I can't provide this level of service that I need to because of all the things that are going on. Ask for help, right?
Mm.
And that doesn't mean like you go to your boss and you say, my hair is on fire, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe it's you pull up with a coach or a mentor or someone like that say like, hey, like could you help me to kind of understand or prioritize? I think that's another one that's really important is
Mhm.
it just takes a little bit longer, I think, to understand from a priority perspective what is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
um
And
so
I know a
yeah.
couple of good coaches if you guys need some.
We do for sure, and we are always here to help you guys.
Absolutely.
And look, if you have any other career advice or career development skills, any other things from you'd love to hear more about, or you'd love to hear us talk a little bit more about, we encourage you. Let us know. We agree. We truly appreciate all of your feedback. We've gotten a lot lately, and it's been really helpful in
Yes.
kind of what's coming up next. So thank you guys. We appreciate you guys, and hopefully you guys have a wonderful evening.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah, be sure to like and subscribe and share all of our tidbits too.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.